What's going on, boys? Today we are adding context to the Archonic stuff. I thought what was going on would have been self evident, but because it isn't, we'll go through context. The first thing that's going on is embracing your shadow functions, or your shadow at large. I don't think people working on shadow integration are really working on shadow integration. Under normal circumstances, I would put this in a typology video, but I don't want to make this too available to people. I'm beginning to think we never actually use our shadow functions, and trying to access them, which is what people typically call shadow integration, trying in vain to use your shadow functions as conscious tools is pointless. I'm beginning to think actual shadow integration is becoming closer with your shadow functions and allowing them either to direct or to puppet, well, actually, no, direct your conscious functions to act on their behalf in a way befitting a darker version of your shadow function. In other words, a basic look at shadow integration if you're a TI DOM would be using TI in a way informed by TE in a negative yet good for you way. If a nemesis TE were able to get behind the wheel of your TI and make aggressive decisions positive for you on your behalf, what would it do? And I say direct here because I think if you integrate your shadow, that's what they're doing. They're directing. However, if you repress your shadow, that's where puppeteering comes in. When you repress your shadow functions, they will, at an inopportune moment, take over and make you do some stupid shit, net harmful to you. Shadow integration is choosing your shadow functions input right now in all their nastiness so they work for you, if in a nasty way, instead of working against you. Not only do you need that aggression and other in the academic sense and darker voice or hand on the wheel if you don't want to be a loser your entire life, but also you do benefit from it. You end up having more control over yourself. You end up more capable. And you end up with a greater capacity to do good when and where you want to. Two popular backups to both those claims. Hunter S. Thompson on the Hells Angels. They were a symptom following World War II and Vietnam of repressed cruelty, or the even acknowledgement of that cruelty. It's some Apocalypse Now shit. When people refuse to acknowledge the evil they're carrying around and then attack it in others, you feed that shadow until it materializes, until it takes physical form and starts taking action. You saw that in society at large back then with the Hells Angels and organizations like theirs. You see it in individuals when they walk around, or we walk around, acting like we are good people and then partake in mobs, 5 minutes of hate, and so on. It'll bubble out somewhere on its own, and when it does, it won't be pretty. And then the second claim, Rust Cole, true detective. The world needs bad men. we keep other bad men from the door. And on that note, I've been thinking a lot about faith and good and evil the last few months. How can I say I have faith in a system I don't even fully understand? A system I have doubts about and need to think about and interpret constantly. At no point am I able blindly to believe in what I believe in. That's one of the reasons I experiment with new ideas pretty frequently. In my opinion, that is faith. If your faith can't survive intense doubt and constant questioning and requires blind obedience, then it isn't faith. It's idolatry. Pure truth, or spiritualism, whatever you want to call it, something much higher and purer than we are, is an ocean. And each human being has a 1 gallon jug and a fork to work with. Filling up that jug is going to take a lifetime, and even if you do, you've gathered only a small part of an incomprehensibly large whole. The point here being, you can't have true faith without true doubt. In the same way, you can't achieve true good without true evil. You can't call yourself peaceful unless you can fight. Faith without doubt is blind obedience. Peace without power is submission. Good without evil is a number of things. Complacency is one of them. You're doing nothing to stop evil. It's ignorance. How do you know you're being good always and not evil if you don't know evil? And it's submission and obedience. You're walking around believing you're a good person, fearing you're a bad person, doing what you're told by whatever social standards you've been programmed to follow, while probably committing tons of evil against people and excusing it. You could call it hypocrisy in that way too. So that is the strictly shadow integration side. Now we'll talk about experience, personal and general. Probably bounce around between the two. For the longest time, I've been walking around terrified I'm a bad person. That's why I walk around, I do good deeds, and tell myself and other people I'm a good person, using those good deeds while keeping quiet or excusing the bad things I do. Anything to keep my idea of myself as a good person intact. Repressing at all costs the bad side I unconsciously know is there. Because I see it. I have to excuse it or feel guilty about it. That leads to a few problems. First and foremost, I'm living a lie. My conception of myself is a lie. I can do tons of good deeds, but as long as I'm repressing the fact I do bad deeds and have the capacity to do bad deeds, I am a falsehood. I'm a fiction. I'm a lie. I am not the truth. And every day I repress my evil, the more that lie grows. Because that evil starts festering. It starts coming out at inopportune moments. Harder and harder to hide. Harder and harder to excuse. And that is exactly how you end up just like another yuppie scum in my area. presents himself as a charming teenage genius dropout golden boy. You've heard this story 1,000 times before. You know this archetype, especially in American culture. Turns out he's a little sexually threatening. And this happened a little while ago, but people ripped him apart, and he vanished. He's still alive as far as I know, but I haven't seen his face or heard his name in some time. Devastating. And it was devastating because his entire world was a lie. And of course people ripped him apart, because people wait for moments like these. I'm not saying they shouldn't have ripped him apart. I'm saying they enjoyed it. And of course, they all enjoyed it more than they'd be willing to admit they enjoyed it. This wasn't just justice, this was a lynch mob. It's like the end of Faulkner's A Light in August, or Light in August. I think it was A Light in August. End of the book, the civilians, citizens of this wonderfully southern community are getting ready to burn the wrong guy alive for doing something to a young woman, while talking about how they would have treated the young woman a little bit differently. In fact, that reminds me, I think we talked about this a few years ago. The justification of, or excuse for, evils within a community via ritual sacrifice. The idea communities maintain their cohesion and positive self-image despite their apparent evils, real evils, by ritually sacrificing a symbol, usually an individual, who represents all of a community's repressed evils. In this case, sexual violence toward minors. By taking your evil into your own hands, in all its awfulness, you not only prevent it from getting that far, but also you forge yourself into something more difficult to shatter in your completeness. In the yuppie's case, his evil may have manifested as forward, gross, but not threatening in that way, flirting. Then it becomes that guy's annoying or creepy, not that guy's a threat that needs to be dealt with right now. Now, I think this repression and ritual sacrifice thing is a symptom of modernity. In Uncle Teddy's words, people have been alienated from the power process. In other words, you have no real control over your life. You can technically do a ton of different things, but in reality, all you can do is be quiet and do as you're told. Now, some people are okay with that, but other people, I'd say a qualified majority, by degrees, are not okay with that. They'll do it because they have to, but they won't be happy about it. They'll do as they're told, and they'll repress their feelings of powerlessness, their feelings of resentment. They'll inject themselves with whatever mimetic ideological cocktail they need to believe they're happy, or have the chance, the possibility of becoming happy, by following these simple steps. To believe they have control of their lives, that they are choosing to do these things or act these ways that benefit the systems that keep them with a boot on their heads. Precisely in the Metal Gear Solid 2 Patriot sense. If you can make people believe they are making this decision, and they have the freedom to make this decision, they'll view oppression as freedom. which 1984 talked about a good while ago. Now, on some level, people are going to understand they are unhappy and they are powerless. They have no choice. But, in the same way, consciously or unconsciously, they know they have no power to change the system at large. Or they think they don't. But they still have all this building, bubbling, tar, shadow shit in them building up. They'll never acknowledge that. People are not, or cannot, admit to themselves and others they are weak and hopeless in the face of this crushing, alienating, modern system. So what are they going to do? Because the pressure is building and it needs to be released somehow. Well, they're going to pick easy targets to strike and then justify their own evil to themselves and others as virtue, or in the name of virtue. You're going to attack a politician relentlessly and excuse it by saying, this person, this politician, is all bad, the emblem of evil, and I and people like me are good. These nasty attacks are okay, because I'm a good person and that's a bad person. Maybe you attack a race of people. That's a common one in the United States. You attack someone in your community who does something fucked up. But you and everyone else, of course, take it beyond justice, which would be stopping what was going wrong and correcting it, preventing it from happening again as effectively as possible. No, you instead want to make that person suffer forever. Same with the politicians or opposing parties, and especially the races. Because as long as the problem is never fully corrected, or that difference remains in a way you find actionable, these others remain targets for you to dump your shit on, to dump your evil on. People you believe you can commit evil against and justify it with virtue, as virtue. I do it with law enforcement. Their lies fucked my life into the dirt, professionally, mentally, and emotionally, in ways I am never going to recover from. And I hate every single one of them. I wish every single one of them the worst. I cheer when bad things happen to cops. And I'll argue most of them are evil and deserving of it. But that doesn't justify my hatred of all of them. That isn't justice. That isn't rational. There are, unfortunately, good cops. And there are solutions to the bad cops that are not medieval and barbaric. However, what happened to me hurt enough, still hurts enough, and the chances of these issues ever getting resolved are so slim, it's a lot easier emotionally, irrationally, to paint them all as evil and dump all of my hatred on them. All of it. And I can mental gymnastics excuse that by saying, truthfully, I'm a victim and they continue to victimize. But that doesn't really excuse anything. Because again, there are good cops and there are ways of fixing this that are not evil, even though they're never going to happen. But you see, this is our species' reaction to modernism. And frankly, maybe just our reaction to existence, accelerated in the modern era. We, powerless, miserable little things, wander around in circles and bump into each other and terrorize each other casually and systemically, classifying each other as an okay to hate group and then venting all of our built up evil on each other is easier than doing anything. Or even not even doing anything. Just acknowledging that we're evil and why we're evil. You would rather maintain through ritualized violence or casual aggression, beating your kids, screaming at your spouse, being nasty to a waiter who's having a really bad day, your microscopic illusion of virtue and control and self-determination, than you would acknowledge and accept that you are a rotten, nasty, weak little creature crawling around a system you can't change. You'd rather kill another rat and come up with a reason he had it coming and you should be praised for killing him than you would acknowledge that you are a rat and you can't do anything about it. Now, the hell of it is, you can do something about it. But you would need to acknowledge that you are a rat and your ego can't take that. You are living in a matrix of your own creation. You don't mind living as a violent, cannibalistic, evil little rat as long as you get to pretend you are a virtuous, upstanding, capable within reason human. By choosing this illusion instead of choosing to accept what you are, you're doomed to remain nothing but a rotten little rat. However, when you accept what you are, no matter how painful it is, internally, damaging to your illusion, to your ego, and damaging externally, people are going to hate you for doing it. You begin to regain your agency, no matter how ugly. In the previous video, the Archonic stratagems, I realize, came across as a campaign against humanity as a whole. Revenge. A campaign against good, even. Somehow. Again, people will hear whatever they want to hear if it means they get to take a shot at you that uplifts or bolsters their vision of themselves. Their one ring. Gollum's precious. Within context, those strategies are methods I've found of effective shadow integration. The evil things you become capable of when you accept your evil. Now, accepting my evil took a few different forms. One of those things I needed to accept was the fact I hate most people, and I enjoy watching them suffer. More specifically, I enjoy watching them suffer the consequences of their actions. The guy I mentioned in the last video, he seizes power and uses that power to mob bully me. During the time I believed we were on the same page and I was trying to do the right thing. That was a really nasty, crushing thing he did to me. I felt like I was breathing crisp, oceanside mountain air when I heard he freaked out on a government official. That's humiliating. I was on cloud 9 when I heard a bunch of people, not a bunch of people, it's not a bunch of them, a handful of people tried to get away from him so they wouldn't be implicated in this. I felt like an emperor when I implicated their asses anyway. The other dude I mentioned last video, who is currently giving me issues, I know for a fact the psychopath ENTJ I mentioned a long time ago, he's still in the picture, is really going to fuck over this guy. I don't know when, but that is 100% going to happen. I mean, it probably won't because I'm so sure it will, but I have a feeling it will. And I gave this dude, when we were still good buddies, one chance to try to let him know what was going on. And he brushed me off and treated me like I was stupid. Said that I'm naive. Well, dummy, I am looking forward to watching whatever part Psychopath ends up playing in your downfall when it comes. And I will enjoy not helping you when it happens. It's below zero where I am. There is a dude who drives around in Confederate mobile. He was broken down on the side of the road and nobody was stopping to help him. I carry a nice set of tools with me, always, specifically so I can stop and help people. I didn't help this fucker. Not only do I not... The Confederate thing is embarrassing. When I was a kid, it's especially embarrassing because I liked Confederate shit when I was a kid. But there's a point you grow up and you realize I don't give a shit about states' rights. You say no to slavery. All men are created equal, or they aren't, dummy. Fucking freeze to death on the side of the road. Now, a traditionally or illusory better person would have stopped because that is what we're told the right thing to do. And what I'm describing now sounds a lot like what I was describing earlier. The difference here is, while I am still pretending to be a better person, if I had stopped, it would have been a lie and it would have made me angry. If I had enjoyed his freezing stank ass for moral reasons, it would be a lie. Those moral reasons are justifications, they're excuses. The key here is enjoying the suffering for the suffering's sake, without trying to excuse it. I hate you, and I am happy you're miserable. And I am enjoying the fact I could make you less miserable, and I am choosing not to. In the same way as prejudice, I like Patrice's distinction between racist and racial. His distinction is racist is baseless, constant, and irrational hatred. Racial is case-by-case, reasonable, field-researched disdain. If you've never heard his Asian rants, I highly recommend them. In my day-to-day life, I try to make the Beast 666 Master Therian Aleister Crowley proud by respecting all colors, creeds, and kinds. Strive for acceptance, and if you can't get that far, settle for tolerance, for now, until you can try to get back to acceptance. But then you meet an individual who is the reason some people hate other people. One look at this person, and you realize you need to adjust your higher goals to reflect reality a little better. If you're being phony virtuous, you can't acknowledge that, and you can't analyze your own feelings or do anything about them. It's like my issues between queer academia and the gay community. In queer academia, you have biblically accurate angels, meant as a compliment, bestowing upon you sacred knowledge of who controls you, how they control you, how they benefit from controlling you, why they control you, and what you can do about it, both to free yourself financially and spiritually. And then you have the gay community, which comes down to going alone to a gay bar so a hairy dude who's fat and wears panties can touch you at the bar in public and explain to you why women shouldn't exist. Yes, thank you for that, pal. Maybe we should shower together. At this point, I'm ready for that. My point in bringing all this up is once you accept the nasty thing you are and stop making excuses for yourself to maintain an illusion that's going to do you no favors, you can start to integrate your shadow and develop a real self based on yourself, not your idea of yourself. I mean, you're never going to get away from your idea of yourself, but the more you accept what you are instead of rejecting it, the more realistic your self-image, your ego will be. And the more untouchable your ego will be, or at least resilient. And you start getting your agency back, real power, no matter how limited. You, unless you were born a human course corrector, and if you were, you wouldn't need to watch these videos, you already know it, are never going to change this world or this system for the better. We are in hell. However, you can develop enough, in Kenshi it would be toughness, or power, otherwise, not to be a total bitch of this prison existence. You can take control of yourself. Not just false control, illusory control. The sort of control that says you can control yourself by being a good person. No, you can't. That evil is going to come out involuntarily at some point. You can take control of yourself by taking control or embracing the evil part of yourself. Not as a tool for good, but for your evil in and of itself. You'll notice most major historical figures are never presented as pure good or pure evil. And they never are pure good or pure evil, or low-end good or low-end evil. They're both high-level pure and high-level evil. People who change history are monsters and saints at once. You can work actively to make some people's lives worse, and work actively to make some people's lives better. This isn't like a Fallout karma situation in which doing those two things together results in a net neutral action. This is more like tyranny, which I went back and tried to replay. It's not as good as I remember, but it's still very good. You're both. And you can be both. And you'll become a more complete being by being both. It's yin and yang without pretending there isn't really as much bad as there actually is. Or the Chaos Gods in 40k. They're evil. They also represent good shit. Now 40k emphasizes the bad shit, but when you get into the faction's flavor, you do see that more positive side of things. It's very interesting when you don't write things off as a this or that situation. And you might be thinking that degree of evil completely overrides any amount of good a person does. And you're absolutely right. Unfortunately, you are evil whether you embrace it or not. Do you take control of how your evil works and try to make it benefit you? Or do you let it fester and come out in a way you can't control and then need to excuse or hide? You're damned either way. Maybe try becoming a higher life form if your options are damnation or damnation. And it seems odd that both options are damnation, right? It's almost like we're living in hell. It's almost like we were born evil for a reason, or born with evil at least. I think evil is the larger and more powerful part of our existence. Now, again, this should have been obvious. Good is not something to be repressed either. Good is something to be strived for, in equal measure to evil. However, it should be strived for not in the typical way, which is repressing all evil. The best good, I think, is good that embraces evil. That's the shit humanity's greatest hits are smoking. And of course, you're not going to find an explanation of how that good works in any traditional values system, because being good in a way that acknowledges and embraces evil makes you dangerous to the system that wants you disempowered, that wants you repressed and angry and living in an illusion while committing evil you have no control over. So, while I don't know how that wild good works, because that seems like forbidden knowledge, that's the sort of good I want to be. And the path to reaching that good involves figuring out pure, unadulterated evil, misery, horrible shit, committed against the people you hate most. Not in any justified, hidden, or excused way, but just because you really hate them. Because you are a bad person inside. And frankly, I want to achieve this power and completeness to satisfy my true ego, to justify my narcissism, to reach the highest level, to prove I am, in fact, better than you. I feel better than you. I've done a number of things better than you, but I want to be so undeniably better than you. You can do nothing but feel ashamed of your own wretchedness. And that's one of the things that's been stewing with me for a long time now. The impromptu percentages I use in typology videos to make points. Percentages of types. Most people don't view themselves as winners. They hear in a false statistic meant to demonstrate a point of merit, most people are losers, and they put themselves with the losers. That's alien to me. I am a tremendous loser, but I'll never stop being a winner. In university, the reason I'm a fourth in debt, what other people in my position would be, is I competed constantly and beat people in scholarships. I earned my bachelor's and graduated magna cum laude, blackout drunk. I earned my master's with distinction, on probation, crying every day, stacking chemicals to keep that level of performance up. All legal, of course. I would cut and burn myself on my feet, my back, my armpits, around my groin, so if I were anywhere other than at my desk working, I would feel it. You want to go outside for a walk? You're stinging. You want to lie down and just zone out? You're stinging. You're slouching? You're stinging. Part of that negative point being, most people are losers who would rather stagnate in their illusions of themselves and take pointless potshots at each other and anyone who wants to try to be better or above, or just do anything, because doing shit is hard. It's scary. So much better to live as one rabid, sedated 16th of a human being than it is to try to become a complete ascendant gestalt of everything. Or at least everything you can be in this form. I want to be everything. And I want to be everything before everyone else is. I don't want to be in a fog. If I'm going to be evil, then I want to be evil better than these sedated Hylics are evil. I want to be focused, and I want to get something out of it. I want to give them reasons to feel wretched. So I am very interested in what that ascendant good is going to look like. The good that embraces evil rather than represses it. I am nowhere close to it right now, but I want to get there. And that's the other thing. If getting there means standing up and fighting people dirty now, then that's what I'm going to do. I don't have the option to run, and I don't have the humility just to keep my head down and beat on the people I'm supposed to beat on. If I'm going to be beating on people, then I want to be beating on people I want to be beating on. And I want to be beating on them well. I want to be making them miserable. I don't want to make someone miserable whom I don't want to make miserable. I want the people I hate to feel hated. And I want the people I love to feel loved. Not this forced, performative thing I've been doing. It's hard to love when your guard is up. But you can't let your guard down because there's evil out there. Unless, of course, you cultivate an appropriate level of evil, you can let your guard down because you know how to swing. Maybe that's what it is. I have felt a lot better doing this shadow shit because I feel like I can feel more. I'm not just in this bottled up pressure cooker. If there are going to be blows, then it's going to go to blows, and then it's over, and then I get to feel whatever I want to feel. Again, trying to work all this out, but I think embracing the fact you are evil is the first step. I mean, really embrace that you're evil. But yeah, we'll get to the other stories another time. Triumphant is the word today. Kenshi, build up your toughness. Don't look away, don't run, don't keep your head down, don't submit. You can't beat the system, but you can complete yourself, maybe. But that about rippity wraps this one up. I hope you enjoyed watching, because I certainly enjoyed making it. Despite feeling overwhelmed and exhausted lately, I've felt better than I have in a long time. Because I'm not living in fear of myself or of other people. It's amazing what you accomplish or are capable of accomplishing when you embrace yourself. Accept yourself for what you are. Nobody else is going to accept you, but you can accept yourself if you choose to. Like if you enjoyed, because it helps me out a lot. Subscribe if you haven't, because we do this shit sometimes. And comment your thoughts, I love hearing from you. I don't, but I've said that about 1,000 times now, even before this. Thanks again for watching, everybody, really. We have a lot of fun on this channel, so much fun, in fact, you can breathe it out, you can exhale it, and a weight off your shoulders will be lifted. because that's a lot of fun to breathe out the fun and breathe in the fun. And that's so much we have on this channel, and I look forward to doing this with you guys again in the future.